Hi, I'm Ed Smith. I'm the president of Agile Fleet. Today we're going to talk about the changes in government and how we deliver fleet services in light of remote work, telecommuting, and changes in job functions. So there are many surveys that have shown that as many as 3/4 of government workers are now working from home, telecommuting, or remote working in some capacity. The way that they once used a vehicle has changed. Back at the central location where they used to work, that's where most of the vehicles are these days. We haven't made the adjustments yet to the number of vehicles in the fleet, to the type of vehicles in the fleet, or even where the vehicles are located. There's a lot of money at stake here, and to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money, we need to make modifications to the fleet to reflect the new realities of how people are working today. So many job functions have changed. The social services team is now performing a lot of their visits all virtually. They're not driving to the homes. Tax assessors, same thing. Their work is being done over the phone. They're using Google Maps. They're using other tools. Inspectors that are looking at a home improvement job like a deck or a hot water heater replacement are now actually doing those through FaceTime. The needs for vehicles has changed. We don't need as many vehicles as we used to. So therefore you could say, well, let's just get rid of those vehicles. But you cannot just take the inspector's vehicle away without providing an alternative. Same thing of the social service worker or the assessor. You must have an alternative. A low-cost alternative is vehicle sharing that's been used quite effectively across many different types of organizations. So at the end of the day, the job of the fleet manager or the folks in charge of the fleet for a county, for example, is to provide a vehicle. The job is not to provide an assigned vehicle. It's not to provide a specific vehicle. So how do we provide a vehicle to that driver that needs it on occasional use, that remote worker, that telecommuter, that virtual social services worker that occasionally does need to use a vehicle to perform their job? Quite often, the lowest cost alternative is to provide a shared vehicle using vehicle management technology. Vehicle sharing technology is an easy way to provide 24/7 access to the vehicles. It is a great alternative to an assigned vehicle that consumes a vehicle 24/7. Vehicle sharing technology provides the vehicle to the driver only when they need it. And a great benefit of it as well is that a vehicle sharing system is going to provide you all the metrics you need to see exactly how many vehicles you need to meet the needs of your fleet drivers. As vehicles start to return to work, it'll clearly be indicated in the metrics that says we need to plan for additional vehicles in our centralized pools. A great example of the benefits of vehicle sharing comes from Prince George's County, Maryland, and their fleet manager, Rick Hilmer. Rick long realized the financial benefits of vehicle sharing, yet many of the department vehicles at the county were not shared at all. And departments did not consider that they wanted to pull their vehicles into a centralized pool. So effectively, if you had a department vehicle, you were paying $300 a month whether you used that vehicle or not. The way Rick convinced vehicles to move to the shared vehicle model is he looked at their trip logs from an unshared vehicle and calculated how much would those trips have taken had you used a shared vehicle. And Rick was able to show that cost savings were sometimes in excess of 90%. So imagine instead of paying $300 a month for a vehicle you seldomly used, you went to a shared model and you paid $21 for that same month. The savings were dramatic. And as Rick could communicate that and show real hard numbers to the department owners, he convinced them to take those department vehicles and move them into a pool. That's how significant the cost savings are. Shared fleets are a great way to accommodate the gradual return to work from those who may have been telecommuting or working remotely for the last year or two. Take, for example, someone who had an assigned vehicle. After the last year, perhaps that assigned vehicle was sold off or no longer assigned to that individual because they were remote working. As that worker comes back to the central office to work, 1-to-1 driver to vehicle ratio is in play. Every worker that comes back, you need to have one new vehicle. But chances are the job function has changed enough that that vehicle won't be used every day. A shared vehicle is perfect for that scenario. It's very common for a shared fleet to have a ratio of 10 drivers to one vehicle. The demand for vehicles doesn't likely all line up at the same time. So now for every 10 remote workers that comes back to the office, you need one vehicle to fulfill that need. As an example of how great the savings are of sharing vehicles, let me tell you about a story at Stamford, Connecticut. This happened several years ago, about 5 years ago, before price of resale of vehicles went through the roof and are at record highs. The city of Stamford, Connecticut had 80 vehicles located at its government center location. A new fleet manager came in and noticed that day in and day out, there were many extra vehicles out in the parking lot. Yet the departments to which those vehicles were all assigned would routinely say they needed additional vehicles. He took 80 vehicles and moved them into a centralized pool and assured the departments that they would always have ready access to the vehicles. They had a self-service kiosk. Drivers could access the vehicles 24/7. He assured them he would watch the utilization metrics and make sure that they never ran out of vehicles. He started a centralized pool and immediately took 20 to 30 vehicles out of that pool with no impact whatsoever to the drivers. They never ran out. He continued to monitor the utilization, and that fleet went from a size of 80 vehicles down to fewer than 20. He eliminated 60 vehicles and no drivers were impacted. That is the beauty, that is the savings you get from sharing vehicles as opposed to assigning them out to departments. The savings are tremendous. He has saved millions of dollars on a fleet of just 80 vehicles at a government center location. Forsyth County is another great story of the savings that can be realized through vehicle sharing. Back in 2008, 2009, during a financial crisis that we faced in this country, the county executive told the fleet manager, you need to cut your budget by $300,000 in the upcoming budget. Vehicle sharing was the answer. Across the county, they implemented 4 automated vehicle sharing kiosks, and they removed assigned vehicles from the departments. And so with the sharing, they were able to, in that first year, save in excess of $300,000. And the beauty of that is every dollar that they removed from the fleet, from their annual expenses back in 2008, 2009, is a dollar that they didn't have to spend in 2010, 2011. To this day, they save about $4,000 a year for every vehicle that they eliminated back in 2008. So think of the cost savings from just such a simple example like that. Again, they still are providing every driver that needs a vehicle ready access to a vehicle 24/7. Thanks for joining the discussion about how delivery of fleet services is changing in government as a result of remote work, telecommuting, and outright change in job functions. For more information, visit agilefleet.com to download a white paper or request a demo.